What's up, BMXers? Welcome back to another episode. Today we have a awesome special guest. I don't actually know how we should introduce you. Should it be Chills, Chili, Chilitzi?
We on chill.
I go by the name of Chili Neverson.
Oh, okay. We'll dig deeper into that. Welcome, Chili. Thank you.
What do you have for us in our audience, Chile?
So when we were talking with Maurice offline, but online, well, we talked about bold conversations that we normally don't really interact with as youth people in South Africa, the world. So one of the topics that we came up with was purpose. What is it? How do you journey into that or break it down? How do you find yourself and know yourself?
One of the things that I listened to a TED talk also about this some time ago, and there was this lady who actually said that when we're looking at ourselves and we're trying to find ourselves, it starts giving off the narrative that you are lost to some extent. Are we lost? Or is it just a matter of, waiting for, well, not waiting, you're loving. And as you're loving, you're exploring, you're understanding who you are. Because as a baby, you grow up, you're a blank canvas, so to speak. And as time goes by, as you start, listening to people around you, as you start seeing things, you figure out things, you're like, well, I'm curious about this. I like this. I don't like this. Vegetables are not my thing. Chocolate pudding is my thing. Even like allergens is an example. Like, how do you know that you're allergic to something before you taste it and you find out that, well, okay, this gives me a reaction.
Yeah.
Because you may find that your parents or siblings are not allergic to something, but you are. So I wouldn't necessarily saying that, like, you have to find yourself or that you lost.
Are you seeking to find yourself because maybe there's some absence of purpose in your life?
That could possibly be.
Very interesting. You spoke about TED Talk. So I think we are shaped by people's beliefs, right? And as we come into our own, we kind of like discover certain things about ourselves. At this point, we are kind of like blocking out like any societal beliefs, anything we've been taught before, right? And we are trying to kind of like understand what is it about ourselves that we are seeking to express, right? And it could be some people, when we talk about discovery, some people actually get into wrong careers because maybe like someone in their family influenced them into that career and they said, this is like the perfect career for you and it's gonna bring A, B, C, and D, this, that, and third. And when you got there, you actually discovered that actually this is not me, right? It's the exact opposite of what I want in life. So that is also like some form of discovery because you're discovering something about yourself, but then like you inherited someone else's belief about a particular something.
Yeah, and I guess you wouldn't also know, because sometimes, there's this saying as well that says sometimes you have to believe in someone else's belief in you before you believe in yourself. Because you may look at a career path and be like, being a doctor is not for me. I could never do that. I don't have the skill and ability to do that. And someone's like, well, I could see you being a doctor because I can see how meticulous you are. You have a steady hand. You understand biology. You have a passion for that. Maybe that is the way you should go. And to your point, yes, you get there and it's like, well, this is not for me. But I think that's part of the important, steps that you have to take to understand who you are. Because you wouldn't know that before. I mean, otherwise we would have all just loved our lives, done the subjects that we needed to do, or not go to school at all and do the Richard Branson way. and just start Virgin and become billionaires and stuff like that and go into space without even like passing high school maths. So it's all part of those steps are important to understand who you are. But
Yeah,
like, I don't think there's a shortcut to it.
That's true. 100. Tshili, we've said a lot.
Yeah, you guys have. Let me also just break it down, because when I was coming up with this topic, I was actually in the bathroom, guys.
We like the behind the scenes,
Behind
the
the
thought
scenes,
processing,
you
yeah.
know, because you just look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I look pretty. But then in that moment for me, I
It was
looked
an
at
epiphany.
it was like I was just standing there and I was like, actually, what am I doing here? And I was at work in the office. Like, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? Because I didn't feel any connection to what I was doing and what I was meant to do, was supposed to do. So I kind of broke it down a little and got to know myself first. Yeah. So I think knowing thyself is quite important.
At that point, like, did you kind of like come to an understanding of your inner suppressions? Some of the stuff that you've always kind of like suppressed, and you've almost allowed other things to kind of like shine, or to kind of like take precedence, or to be like the overarching way forward for you?
That is actually a good question. I did. And you know, when you're in denial that actually Maurice maybe did this for me, or he brought in this type of idea and therefore I'm reacting to it in a way that he is seeing me, or that I'm supposed to react, and not in a way that I would truly invest myself and react in that kind of situation. So yeah, it has been quite amazing having to just break it down shred by shred.
On that note, can I ask something? Do you think that we have the time, in the modern day world, to actually sit down and break things down that way? Because we so stuck in the metaverse, where you online, whether it's on whatever app it is. Do you actually have the moment to pause and self-discover and ask yourself, those reflective questions? Be like, but who am I? What is my purpose? What makes me want to wake up in the morning? What drives me?
Is it directed to her, or
no?
Well, I think everybody has that latitude, to be quite honest, Maurice. But then again, everything is incumbent on you to either do something about it. But I would also just maybe like caveat this statement. We live in an online world where people can inherit other people's purpose in life. Perhaps someone else's purpose is to get so much money, right? And then you kind of like see this and then you want it for yourself, but it was never something that you initially wanted for yourself, right? Because now you see someone else having it and then you think, maybe this is what I need as well. And then you get it and then it does not make sense to you. And then you find yourself just sitting there and wondering, how did I even get here?
I mean, not everyone can be doctors as well, right? I mean, who do the other things in life?
Yeah, of course. And again, guys, like I was having a conversation actually with someone, right?
Break it down, bro. Tell us.
And we spoke at length about just things in a very generic way, right? And I said, do you think my life is much more easier than yours? And she said, absolutely. And I said, what makes you say that? And because I didn't want to be too personal, so I said, think of a lawyer, right? When you see a very successful lawyer, all you see is a very successful lawyer. But what about the intimidation that person has to face if he's actually representing a victim that's going against someone that's very powerful, right? The intimidation, or let's even like take it a step further. What if he's representing someone who did something sinister, right? But they know this person is not innocent. He did it, but then they have to separate their personal judgment with their profession, right? And they have to be professional in that sense. But they know this person killed or this person raped, and this person could very well continue doing so for as long as he has the money to back himself out of any situation. what goes through that person's mind. He may win those cases. It's a success story, right? But then, like, in reality, when he's sitting there and just thinking about how many victims are going to be affected by this person that he just saved. So as a successful lawyer that's celebrated all over the world, do you think when he sits down, he says, this is my purpose, to save criminals?
But I think that would go back to morals. I think so. I mean, yes, you could represent that person, but how are you going to sleep at night? I'm not saying don't represent them, but yeah, at the end of the day, you have to choose what is worthy to you.
But then when it starts as small as, I want to be a lawyer, right? And then when you find yourself in that situation, then you start to see the landscape is much broader than you would have initially anticipated. Same as doctors. Doctors just want to save lives. But what happens when they try to save lives in the process?
Destroyed.
They well, not necessarily destroyed, but they lose lives. Like surgery, for instance. You're trying to save someone, right? And they always put it out there, right? That there's a high possibility, or there's a chance that this could happen, right? You can't imagine that would sit well within that person that's actually about to take that risk. It's going to rest on their shoulders. And I promise you, all of those things, when you actually compound them, they do somewhat weigh you down as a person, no matter how successful you are.
Yeah, but I think that's where you making those decisions about what career path you're going to take. You have to look at all those things. You have to understand the field that you're going into. You can't just assume that it's going to be all roses going into being a doctor. You go into it, because that's why they do you do your first degree, your bachelor's, and you do your honors and masters, and you go into understanding, or you do your rounds at the hospital. And you'll go into theater, you'll go into understanding what the doctor's role entails. And now they start cutting people open, and you see people dying, and you see people making number 2 on their cells, and you're like, well, this is actually not what I initially thought it's going to be. So see you guys, I'm out of here. And that's because you wasted 7 years. But okay, it's not wasted, because in some ways you can salvage the situation and make something from it. But when making the decision, I think you'd have to take those steps to understand what it is that you're actually going into. If you're going to be an artist, a painter, and you're painting with a lead-based paint, know that you cannot dip the brush into your mouth. You'll die. If you're going to do like what Madame Curie was, like working and helping people with x-rays back in the days and stuff like that. But it's the same thing that killed us. So understanding what you do, what you're handling. Now you take the step and be like, okay, this is
notwithstanding that, Maurice, but I think, like, as much as you can understand like what it is that you're trying to do or what your purpose is, like, you can also not you can't really say like, I can forecast exactly what's going to happen in the near future, because the landscape can change at any given time. Definitely. Right? And when it does change, then like the adjustments may not be what you cut out for.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very easy to say, yeah, well, I understood exactly. Medicine back in the 1970s and 80s, it's not the same. So like there's a period of transformation. So within that time, like, how are you adjusting to that transformation, right? And like we speak about transformation all the time here, like in loose terms, but it's not so easy, right? That period where you have to kind of like readjust, it's so difficult.
You have to actually unlearn.
You have to unlearn, yes. So that's when you might actually question your purpose in life. So it's at that point you might even ask, is this even worth it?
Yeah.
Right? We can talk about people that actually had a lot. I remember this one time we were in Santin and I was telling them about Alexander McQueen, right? A well-celebrated fashion designer, respected amongst his peers, right? But he was just not happy with himself, so he ended up actually taking his life. But he often questioned everything, right? Everything, but he had the success. He had everything that he wanted. But soon as he got everything,
It wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. And you often hear people saying that, I don't even know who I am. Sometimes, like, like a career or like your purpose can take some twists and turns. And those twists and turns can actually test you. And again, it speaks to self-discovery, because I always feel like in every circumstance that we face, we always presented with a different version of ourselves, a version that otherwise we might not have known. But because of that, then we've come to know of that version.
What comes to mind is the book The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, Robin Sharma, and they narrate a story about a successful lawyer, where the successful lawyer is like, he eats out every day of the week, fine restaurants and drinking the fine whiskeys and everything, and then one time he just had a heart attack, and at that moment, was in hospital, and thereafter he decided this is not for me. This field is not for me, and decided to go, become a monk and live with the monks, among the monks, and discover his purpose, And I think maybe it gets to a point where you probably hit a brick wall. It could be physically, it could be mentally, whatever, and where you come, and you'll obviously just decide, is this my purpose? You'll ask yourself, is this my purpose? Was I meant to do this? And I think, like, a lot of times, like, we always speak about our environment. Our environment shapes us. And as you've also mentioned now, that you'll have family members who tell you this career is good for you, or that path is good for you, And then when you come to you, when you're in that field, or when you don't know what else to do, you'll then go out searching, searching and trying to find your purpose. So I've had an opportunity this weekend as well to continue on my self-discovery. I went to ceremony again, ayahuasca ceremony, and that's where I'm trying to find my purpose as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, I hear you guys talking about success, the lawyers and everything. So when we come to a speed bump, for example, why is it that we are so afraid to ask for help?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. That's a
Is it
brilliant
not pride,
question.
perhaps?
Pride. Yeah.
It could be pride.
It could be, but
paint a picture, sorry, Tshili.
Okay, I'll use X's example. Okay. For instance, I've been told I would be a great lawyer.
Yeah.
And I think I have it in me, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Then I'm now doing, I've done my degrees and everything, and I'm now doing my articles.
Yeah.
So then I see that, okay, I can't handle such cases.
Yeah.
Then what stops me from, taking a seat back and just changing the career, which is asking for help? Because a lot of us go through so many things, and we are too afraid to ask for help.
Well, simply put, nothing stops you from doing that. I think X actually framed it better when he said it's pride. I think there is an element of pride everybody has inside of them, that almost always stands in between progress and failure. Because in any case, if you don't really ask for that help that you so desperately need, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Basically, that's what you're doing. So it's difficult, because also we've got judgment, which is like a big issue with us humans. We tend to judge each other a lot. But you have to get to a stage where like you aren't disturbed by judgment, you know, because if you care about what people will say, then actually what you're doing is you're playing second fiddle. You're putting yourself last and you're putting them first. So you have to put yourself first, and say like, okay, like, what am I trying to solve here? Am I trying to solve my own problems, or am I trying to solve people's problems? And I would say solve your own problems.
Yeah. And also to mention, we spoke about it in the car. You know, I told Maurice that we all are work in progress, right? And it says that we paintings and the oil never runs dry until we die. So the canvas that you paint in, you know, you need to make sure that you can change it. You can have it designed any way you want to, you know, and because no one else is going to do that. It's your canvas, it's your paintbrush, you know. So if you have to decide, look, I'm changing careers, then change careers. We're speaking about lawyers. Over the weekend, I met another lady who was also a lawyer. She's a lawyer, actually. And she said she quit her job because of the stress, you know, that she shared that in ceremony. And she said she doesn't have a job, but she's not willing to,
lose
herself for her job.
I think that's quite important. Yeah.
I always say we are not our professions. And like I place the greatest emphasis on that, because whenever you feel like you're losing yourself in whatever you're doing, then I think it's very vitally important that you take a step back and really reevaluate the situation and ask yourself, is it really worth it? Because, you know, there's something called cognitive dissonance, where like your persona reflects something, but like your mind is in direct contravention of what it actually reflects. So you have these mental struggles within yourself. Nobody can see them, only you have to face them. And like when you actually face them, they're not nice, because like you have to put on this facade that, okay, like I'll go and put my tie and just go face the public. But in actual fact, this is not what your inner self. And which leads me to my next. Does your purpose lie outside of yourself? Can it be influenced by other people, or you can feel it yourself that this is it? Whenever you come into contact with that particular purpose, you just feel it. This is it.
I think it's within yourself.
It's within yourself.
Yeah, it's within yourself, because it's a place where something that gets ignited in you, you know, something that makes you live, something that, you know, drives you, you know. So as you said, if it's something on the outside, then definitely it won't last that long. But if it's within, definitely it would last, you know, because you'd be at your happiest. We've heard about you know, prominent people having, you know, these statuses, and they've acquired a lot of things in life,
an abundance of riches.
Yeah, and they just, at one point they just decided, now this is not what I want. I would like to go and learn to play a guitar, and that's what makes them happy. So they left their jobs or whatever businesses they had, and they learn to play a guitar. They play guitars or whatever it is, you know, because that fulfills them.
But then I think, isn't that like different from your purpose? Because it's like a hobby to some extent in some cases.
No, not really.
Not
Not
like
really.
Well, we don't implore people to leave their jobs just because they're searching for their purpose.
Yeah.
Because
Your job could lend you to a purpose as well.
Yeah, but look, if it's your purpose, if your job is if your job is no longer bringing that fulfillment, and your guitar brings that fulfillment, then it is your purpose.
no, but then
It's
what
not
about
a hobby. It's not a hobby.
what about so when we're saying a purpose, is a purpose something that's for life, or is it like, you know, for a period, this is what you have to do, and the next period of your life, this is what you have to do, and then the next period of your life, this is what you have to do. Because
I think your purpose is something that makes you happy. You know,
Which-
that keeps you grounded.
which could be a hobby
know.
as well. Don't you agree to that? Then?
No, I don't.
So wait. So are you guys saying that anything that's innocuous, right, is a purpose, right? Because it does make you happy. What if like your purpose was to save lives?
That's
right?
what I'm saying. So if your purpose is to be a doctor, right?
Yes.
And at 65 years old, you decide to retire because you are done with this now. And now you feel that you've always wanted to build sculptures with matchsticks.
So
that's
now,
not your purpose, because you're doing it in the confines of your own home. Maybe you display it later on, but you don't. Your intention is not to sell it. You fulfilled your purpose for the time that you are able to fulfill that purpose of being a doctor. For
well, let's just
65
say you
years.
can't have one purpose in life.
I
That's
agree,
possible.
You can't. Yeah.
Because I mean, like your life is divided into stages. That's how I look at it.
Yes,
As a
that's
child,
true.
you have a purpose to do this. As you grow on, you have a purpose to do something else. And all this time, each and every day, each and every day is a different purpose to some extent. You may wake up and you may like need to, lend someone a hand and help them out of their sticky situation where they ask you for help. Be like, you know what, this is my situation that I'm going through. I need some guidance. I need some advice. You're not a counselor, but like for that moment, your purpose was to be there for that person and to lend a helping hand to take them out of that situation. Further than that, your normal purpose is to be a doctor. Beyond that, after retirement, you decide to become a guitar player and travel the world and be a hippie or something.
I cannot say this. let's bring it back to Tshili. Tshili, do you want to say something? Because trust me, I was going to throw a punch at Maurice, but then I thought, let me just leave him for once.
You can throw the punch.
I was also, because I was like thinking about
Throw the punch.
something else.
I remember when we were kids, so his purpose was to actually play a character, right? So we were like playing this role in church. So he was Mary. So he was wearing this very, very nice detailed dress and stuff like that. But then he grew up and
to take one for the team.
So that was just your purpose at that point in time.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think you have to be a chameleon sometimes.
True.
You have to as the wind blows, you adjust your sails. Otherwise, you just keep the sails in that one direction, and as the wind blows, you will just not move anywhere, or you'll move back to where you came from. And I don't think that's how we should be moving, right? Your purpose shifts from time to time, and you can actually change. Why can't you have multiple purposes? You have a purpose as a father or as a mother. You have a purpose as a child. You have a purpose as a grandparent. You have a purpose as a professional.
Like, I want to introduce something.
Introduce it.
So what happens when you have your pure purpose, right?
What's a pure purpose?
Let's say, as a politician, right? Your purpose is to serve people, right? And you make promises. And then within the political stratosphere, you encounter people that will then influence your outlook and your approach, your methods altogether, right? To serve their own agendas. And then you find yourself not actually like serving or like living your purpose, but you find yourself in that situation. And some people are actually cornered. And I know it's very easy for us to say, yeah, but you can always use a moral compass and just
navigate your way out
or be well principled. Yes, that is also true. But what if you're strong armed? And it's not very easy. And just like, this is just an example, obviously. Like, I'm not saying that like you could easily fall out of your purpose because you're a politician. No, like this can like cut across every field or every career path that anyone decides to take, where someone has some form of influence, and that influence goes against your purpose or your beliefs.
Can I respond
Yeah.
with a question?
A question on a question.
Yeah, a question with a question.
Mm,
So, X is overpowering you. It's just an example.
yes.
And then, as an overseer,
Mhm.
I'll ask you, who are you? Are you gonna do what he's telling you to do, or are you gonna stand by your
So what if
actions?
it's not X that's overpowering you? It's the policy that was set before you even made it to the office.
Loopholes? I'm kidding.
You know,
And you cannot influence those policies. You don't have the power to influence those policies. So you basically and again, here's a classic example of this, right? There is a series on Netflix called House of Cards, right? There's a guy, right? A congressman that is elected by the people, right? And he made promises to those people. As soon as he made it into office, then he found out that actually it's not so easy to deliver on his promises. And like, it was so difficult. You could tell deep inside he wanted to actually fulfill he had every means to fulfill his promise, but then like there were blockers, and there was no ways that he could have found any form of circumvention or a work around those blockers. So he had to kind of like yield and really like play the political game in order for him to continue to be in the game at all. Yeah. So what then in those situations? And I understand that you're saying that who's that person, right? It's very easy to say that, but what if it's a policy and it's got no person that you can literally address it with behind?
But remember, like, as a politician, you have an oath and obligation, right, to serve the people, but doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make each and every person happy. Right?
Yes.
So there are things that's beyond your reach, beyond your abilities when stepping into office, that you just can't bypass. Your intention is to serve the people, which you're doing. Or let's say your purpose is to serve the people. You are serving the people. Whether or not you're serving the people to their satisfaction, that's a different story. You cannot please everybody. And also, if you cannot do something, but you've tried by all means, you've jumped through whoops of fire and all that, and it's just not possible.
So if you fail to deliver, then do you sort of like get a reprieve because you made an effort?
But here's the question: when you're saying fail to deliver on the promise?
Yes, on the promise, right? So your purpose was, I want to build this community. I want to create jobs in this community, right? And you went into office and you've achieved none. Now you're saying that, well, if there was a genuine attempt, right, an effort thereof, so then you can be given a reprieve. We can pardon you for it because at least you tried.
But now, if we're saying that as a politician, this is your purpose, to build a school or to do that, and that's like you boxing the whole career down to one particular goal. What if you've built hospitals but you didn't build a school? Does that mean you're a failure?
I think you can come up with ways, just so that you don't end up losing yourself in trying to achieve that certain goal or task.
And please everyone.
Yeah. Because you're not ice cream. Not everyone will like you.
And even ice cream, people be like, I'm lactose intolerant. Like
Exactly.
But on that note as well, there was this interview, I'm sure you watched it, with Thierry Henry and what's this guy's name? I forgot his name. Anyways, this one journalist asked him, so if he was not a professional footballer, what would he have done? He said he would be an amateur footballer. The point of the story is, whether it's professional, whether it's street ball, whether it's whatever, I'll be playing football. So he may not have pleased Arsenal. You may not have pleased Barcelona or LA. What did he play for? LA Galaxy.
Maybe towards his latter stages of his career,
or even France, but he would have fulfilled what he wanted to do, and which is just play ball. You're not gonna be able to please everybody. And I think that's also one of the things that gets us down, is that we look at a career and we're like, okay, starting a career, I need to win all my cases as a lawyer. But also in the same breath, I don't want to win a case that is where the person is guilty and I didn't know. So now, it's like, how do you, that's not possible. You can't not win a case, but also not lose a case.
I think it's the same with life in itself, in general. You're scared to disappoint your parents because they want you to be a teacher, and here you are, you want to be a football player.
Yeah.
And the two don't really mix. So let me just please them and life will be okay. But at the end of the day, you end up losing yourself.
You know what the problem is?
What's the problem, bro?
The problem is we want to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right? We want to win all the time. We want to be right all the time. But take this for a moment. Moses, right? Moses, up until the point he was chosen to go free people, right? He even questioned why he was the chosen one when he was less deserving, right? But still, he was the chosen one to go and save people, right? So we tend to look at people that maybe they don't appeal to the masses, right? When they are successful, we tend to question them and say, but why that person when they're less deserving of that particular success, right? Because they've done A, B, C, and D, right? Take, for instance, a case of Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather faces the most scrutiny for the things that he cares nothing about. Like, for instance, reading, right? A lot of people still hold him to that standard that, oh yeah, you've got all the money in the world. He's a boxer, right? He has no moral obligation to now start giving his time into other activities such as, oh, let me go learn how to read, right? So you have people that say, oh yeah, but you can't read. Oh yeah, but you're not so well spoken, right? But he's a good boxer, right? And that's his purpose, right? And he's actually maxed his purpose. So what's wrong with that? So because the people, and you must look at the people that are not so successful in life, they are the ones that have these ridiculous standards. Yes. Ridiculous? Standards.
Yeah.
They have these ridiculous standards that they themselves cannot attain.
The ones behind the scenes, the critiques online, that's just pointing fingers.
Yes.
Criticizing everybody.
Same as you must also notice this, right? And I know this is like kind of like a detour, but I have to take it anyways. Detour. Same as a girl that wants a life that she can't get for herself, or she can't give herself, right?
Not again.
So she will have ridiculous standards. Like, I want someone that drives a specific car, right? But she ain't got none that's parked at a place, right? So that is the problem. Those people are the people that actually drive us into turmoil, right? Because then now it's very difficult for one to look at their purpose and then in conjunction with whatever the world seeks from people. And we must be very careful again. Like I said, social media is very chaotic. Well, internet, basically, anything online. And we are in the online world today. Whether you like it or not, it's beneficial for some and it's destructive for many.
And on the note about Moses, what was Moses before?
Moses had done things. I'm sure X-Men would tell us a lot more about Moses.
You guys can update me on the biblical stories. I remember bits and pieces, not everything.
Not everything. X-Men, what was Moses before he freed the people? Was he not a shepherd? Was that not his purpose prior to leading the people out of...
He was, Moses, remember, Moses came from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
You know, he came from a wealthy family, and he left that, you know, to fulfill the purpose that was given to him by God to lead the people. So Moses couldn't speak upon, you know, the example you gave. He started, and that is why he questioned God, saying, "Why me? Why are you using me?"
No, but I don't think he left on his own accord. I think he did something. I think he ran away from his home because
There was he killed someone.
Yes, that's the part.
Someone.
He killed someone and then he ran away.
He ran away, yeah. And then,
Yes.
but God still used him
Yes.
to lead the people. So he was the vessel.
Yeah. And also that's very powerful, because if you really look at your purpose is not supposed to be just something that is so shiny, right? Sometimes you will encounter challenges, right? While you are actually trying to live out your purpose, you'll encounter tough challenges and you'll have questions. But I always say, don't just have questions that will actually lead you to solutions, right? It's almost like a couple that's having like a pointless argument, a pointless fight. Okay, yeah, we're having this fight, but to what end? We can't just fight. You can't just tell me about, yeah, you this, you that. To what end? Are we trying to reach for a solution here, or are we just throwing jabs at each other? It's pointless. So if you look at now, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Now, if you look at a purpose, damn, I talk too much. If you look at a purpose, right, you have to ask yourself, whenever you encounter a difficulty, a challenge, right, does it lead you to a solution, right, or to a downward spiral?
How you wouldn't know that? Because it may be something that actually leads you to something that seems like a downward spiral, but it's actually finding yourself in other ways as well.
Are you not in control of that situation? Then how can you
No.
find yourself if you're not in control?
No, you're not.
Oh gosh, you're the same person that literally says, I'm going to Cape Town, but then you have no map, you're just driving. You want to wind up in Cape Town. You can't. You need to have control. You need to understand where you're going first. You cannot just drive and say, okay, well, I'll discover myself along the way.
No. You made it. Sorry, the example earlier.
The clearing of the throat, which is traditional.
Sorry. You made the example earlier about being a doctor. You said that you cannot always foresee the obstacles.
But at least you know the direction you're taking, the direction of travel.
No, but now we're going to say that obstacle. As you come across the obstacle, and is it an obstacle that leads you somewhere, or is it a downward spiral? That was what you were leading to, right? So you wouldn't necessarily know. That's what I'm saying, is that at that moment you get to a detour and it's like you have to take a right instead of a left that you usually take, and then you have to find your way from there through the forest, through the trees, because the road has been closed because of some construction on the way, and now you took some turns and it took you to a different place. You don't know whether you're going in the right direction or not.
But I think sometimes you may know. He spoke about the internet, social media. There's a lot of noise going around, but if you remove the noise, because a lot of us suffer from abantu bazotini syndrome.
What is it?
What will people say?
Oh,
syndrome.
Okay.
It's a.
You mean you don't know what does it mean?
Yeah. It's the first time I even heard it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so if you remove that syndrome, abantu bazotini, I promise you definitely see the destination.
I don't know about that, I don't know about that. I mean, if I think if things were like so clear cut, we would have all just been doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Things are clear cut, Maurice. The confusion, right? The turbulence is self-inflicted most of the time. Like, life is supposed to be so simple, and it is simple. Guys, whether you like it or not, it is simple. The external factors complicate our lives. But other than that, life is generally simple.
Yeah, obviously, because you love and you die. That's simple.
Look like the example about the the monk who sold his Ferrari.
Yeah.
You know, he had everything. And at some point he decided, I'm dropping everything. I'm leaving everything behind, the material things, because my health is more important, you know. And he went out and he went to the monastery and things like that. So basically what he done is, like, he didn't care what people would say. Oh, you're no longer driving a Ferrari. You're no longer whining and dining at these expensive restaurants. You're no longer, you know, well dressed, you know. He left that behind because that doesn't matter. You know, he detached himself from that and went to go and seek something better to fulfill him, his mind, his body, and his soul. You know, and yeah, so to your point, if we can detach ourselves from what people thinks, you know, about us, or what are they going to say, that, you know, you're no longer driving that Ferrari, you're no longer wearing the fancy cars or whatever.
Yes.
I think, you know, it's easy for you to find your purpose or whatever destiny, you know, that's put out there for you.
In fact, let's accentuate or focalize your statement. People are more scared to be judged by people than God.
Yeah. There's a saying, there's this one saying, I'd rather have the smile of God on my life and the frown of man than to have the frown of God and the smile of man.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's very powerful.
You know.
Preach.
So, are you still holding your guns?
I'm still holding my guns.
Looks like it's 3 against 1.
Yeah, even better. Even better. There'll be more casualties. My tally will just climb. But it's not to say that, you know, the intention is just to disagree and is to make things complicated, you know. But I don't see it as being clear cut.
Can I read something for you guys?
Read something for us, please.
Okay, then you guys can obviously discuss.
Can we talk about it after? Things?
Career suicide is not so bad when you consider the alternative is suicide by career.
Can you read that again?
Okay. Career suicide is not so bad when you consider the alternative is suicide by career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So other people would rather be killed by that career instead of them killing that career, because that career is actually going to be far worse. Yes, it's going to kill them. Right? But then they will cling on it even though they know that it's not serving them, right? Because they don't want to kill a career.
Well, it is serving them to some degree, because we are no longer living in a life where we are bartering an egg for milk, for vegetables and fruits. We have this green thing that we use to pay for things in a store.
Fiat currency.
Credit cards, debit cards, and all those type of things. And the requirements are high. There's a control that is placed over everyone these days. If you want to live a life, you have to have money. And that money comes with a tax on your body, on your mind, on your soul.
What if that was just something they told you and then you actually believe it to be true because they told you that and they taught you that?
Nobody taught and nobody told me that. That is something that you see is evident.
But then is money more important than your life?
It's not. But then how do you live without it?
How did people live without it before it was discovered?
Yeah, exactly. That's the good question. But that's why I come to what I said now earlier, is that now it's changed. Yes, and that's why it's changed into this way to say there is a control over how you actually need to live your life.
So, okay, I've got a question then, right? Yeah. So what happens if the fiat currency fails and then now there's a new mechanism in play? There's a new medium of exchange. Let's say, for instance, cryptocurrency. Let's say cryptocurrency takes over. What happens to the value of money?
So if cryptocurrency were to take over, and we were to barter 1 for 1, then there's a balance. Whereas now, if I were to go to take my South African rands to US, it's almost worthless. I would have to add and add and add until I get to $1. $1 is worth 13, 15 or whatever, and actually I'm not sure what it is valued at now. So if I need to buy the phone that's worth $100, I would have to add my amount of rands to firstly to get to $1, then multiply that to get to $100.
So basically, cryptocurrency would kind of like add a parity.
No, not necessarily. I said if it will stabilize and if it will balance where it's a 1 for 1 situation, because then that is a barter again. It's like, okay, well, if you're selling a cup, the cup is valued at this. Okay, give me this, then we take that. Then there's a fairness to it. If the cup is worth $2 and you're paying your $2 and it's equivalent to 2 rands, then there's a balance.
I'll ask you a question, Maurice. What is the most valuable company in the world today?
The most valuable company today? It's the...
We can surmise. We don't have to be politically correct. We can take a guess and say maybe it's this one, but I stand to be corrected.
It's the World Bank.
Oh gosh, I'm a company.
You just had to think of money.
Okay, let's say Apple, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Apple is worth trillions, right? Is there anyone that's willingly ready to pay? And is there anyone that has those trillions? Exactly, valuation. So it can be made. The same method with cash, it is made up. So if you understand that all of these things are made up, someone can just create a product and say it's worth this much, right? You didn't have the money, now you have it. Yesterday you didn't have Facebook for let's call it 300 billion, and today you have Facebook for 300 billion, but you never spent even close to that to have that product actually in the market floating, and then you assign value to that product. So when you're saying that we need cash, yes, you do need an element of cash as a medium of exchange, but to do things, you don't need cash. You need ideas. You need to develop something, then you assign value to that particular something. Then you have the cash.
But that was never the debate. That was never the discussion.
What was the discussion? So I'm trying to show you that you can still maneuver without the money. That you so think we can't even like move an inch without it.
No. Don't get me wrong. You can move an inch and you can do a lot of things without it. But I can tell you that you will move further with the cash than without the cash in today's times, because of how things are actually set up and how things are governed.
Yes.
Until such a time where people decide to break out of the norm.
But then we cannot say that like your purpose could just be like to have so much money.
No, definitely not. Who even said that? Because what I said is that if a person is having a career, sometimes people do not jump ship because they understand the text of life. You have this responsibilities to fulfill. You have kids.
Okay, cool. Now you're actually bringing me back. So going back to our point, so you're saying that you may not have a choice, right? Because you'd rather suicide by career, because then like there's no alternative for you.
Based on that scenario, that's what I was saying. That could be.
What about the person that X brought into play, that like they gave up their career?
You need to understand that person may be having a bag. You don't know, like, because you must understand for a person.
How far did your convo go?
That's personal stuff. Like you can, if a person that maybe, let's say for example, someone that started their career at the age of 27, right, and at about 40 they decide to quit. In that time, they may have developed something else on the side, or they may have saved up some cash,
accrued some savings.
And that cash now is what's sustaining them, coming back to having the cash. But if you now just started you started practicing your first case, you're like, I'm out of here. You have nothing to fall back on.
So the other thing is, in what do we say about people who lives off the grid? who decides to leave the city and just live, just go and live on their own. What do you say about people like that?
That's what I was speaking about. When we say
because
we're breaking
like,
out of the norm. You are not following the principles that we are governed by in the inner city. And you also have that opportunity now to go into farming, cultivate your stuff and do things, but there's still an element of money that you had needed to start to do some of the stuff that you need to do.
Okay, does that speak to like that person's purpose basically when they decide to go off the grid?
Well, it could be. It could be.
What's
because
the
I mean,
purpose?
like the purpose is obviously not to be governed by policies within society, and to live free and to have peace of mind. And there's people you do get tired of the traffic. You get tired of the people. You get tired of
I've got a question.
Of people.
Maybe it's for you, Tshili.
Okay.
All right.
What happens? Let's say you're married, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a newfound purpose, right? But then it goes against the very core beliefs of your marriage. Let's say, for instance, you need to become a sangoma or something like that. But then your spouse, your partner does not believe in that. And previously you also didn't believe in that. But like it's now your new purpose. And like it means that
I think I'm frozen.
in order for you to fulfill that purpose, you might even lose your marriage and everything is perfectly fine.
Honestly, I'd rather lose the marriage than lose my life.
Oh, gosh.
To be honest,
Why
because
are you saying gosh, bro? Like he's disagreeing with you.
No, I'm not.
He's like, gosh, can't believe she just said that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Marriage is a good thing. It's a blessing. A lot of people think marriage is
in disguise.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I might be getting married, guys. I don't know. I'm kidding. But yeah, marriage is a good thing. A lot of people get blessed by being married. But in terms of being defined by a marriage or those standards that me and my husband, for example, have set, if I wake up and I'm married and now I have a calling that I need to abide by, should the husband not support it, I can't now say I cannot be a sangoma because my husband does not agree with it. What if I die?
Yeah. Eggs.
A natural purpose.
I mean, the purpose would be to help people. But if I die, how am I going to help people when I'm dead?
So you have to, you actually, before getting married to someone, you really need to think hard. This person you might get married, and along the line, they might find their purpose and just drop you.
So a purpose basically can be a point in time.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah. Maurice also talked about it when he was bigger. Yeah. It changes frequently in your life. It does. But I think it aligns with your principles as well.
So are we saying that you need to, in order for you to, we're speaking about marriage now. So you had to go, instead of going straight to your purpose, being a sangoma, you had to take a detour. First go get married. You need to get married to a guy first. Break that guy's heart. And then go to your purpose. No, but honestly.
Why are we breaking people's hearts?
So, yeah, I think that's part of the, casualties of war. I just want to take it off from all that again. What I want to come back to what I was saying earlier. You know how difficult is it for people to live comfortably and follow their purpose? Look at Vincent van Gogh. Is regarded as one of the greatest artists to have ever, taken up that career path and that purpose. he struggled. His brother had to support his endeavors in his career.
He struggled how? In financial terms?
Financial terms, mental terms, emotional terms. There was so much that was happening in his time. He didn't even, I think he sold like one painting while he was alive. He painted over 1,000 pieces. So when we're saying that everything is just so simple. It's just it's fine. Just do your purpose and just build houses with matchsticks and stuff like that. It's cool. It's good. Do what you want to do, but you also have to understand there's an obligation that we are bound by as we step foot on this earth. That's different to your purpose.
Can I ask a question just to throw it out there?
Throw it out there, actually.
Have you guys asked yourself, like, digging deep in your bosoms of your heart and soul, hard truths about yourselves?
Talk about it.
And what were those questions? Just one question.
X-Men.
You just put me on the spot. Yeah.
I knew that's gonna throw things off and be like, "Whoa, what? Where did this come from?"
And I'll pass it on to you.
Destabilized you.
Take it. You already took it, anyways.
No, carry on. I need to think about it. Give me time to think. Give me time to think.
Yeah, I think it's for me personally, it's something that it's a constant question that I ask, and I sometimes doubt what my true purpose then is and how many purposes do I have to fulfill, and as time goes by and things change, you're like, okay, well, this doesn't seem like it is my purpose. Maybe it's something else. And I think it's a never-ending journey that you have to actually keep learning who you are, because the brain is so powerful, and when you have those discussions, those introspective moments, you learn things different from what you had when you discussed the first time you had the conversation with yourself. And as you experience new things in life, you also understand things maybe to more depth, and you understand yourself in more depth, and that may change your initial outlook of what actually your purpose may have been. Because initially I was like, well, I want to be a taxi driver because that's what I saw. That was what that's what I was privy to. And as time went on, it was a different story, because now you are seeing teachers, you're seeing other things, and you're like, wow, forget the taxi drivers. I want to do this, So, and you constantly have to ask that question. And when I do that, well, let me not say you constantly I have to ask myself that question. Other people know from get-go that this is what it is, and this is what I'll do from now until the day I die. I don't think it's that clear-cut for me.
Well, my purpose is to be whatever I desire to be, when I decide.
Yeah.
I am 100% not conflicted. I don't listen to anybody. When I ask myself these questions, or if I ever have to question myself, it's a conversation that I'm having with my inner self, right? And it's usually intricate, but it's
not intimate.
It's not red or blue or anything in between.
The Matrix.
Right? It's clear. So if I have to ask myself, like I said to you guys before, it's the type of question that you ask that's important. If that question is leading you to more confusion, then perhaps you are not being honest with yourself. But if that question is leading you to clarity, then you know exactly what you need to do. It's the same as, here's a classic example, right? And it embodies everything that we go through as humans, or it epitomizes our struggles as humans. If you know you don't want to get married, right? But society tells you that you need to get married at this point in time, right? You know what you know, and you get married. When you are in that marriage, now you are asking yourself questions that, am I not a good enough husband? But you know exactly why you didn't feel it was the right time for you to get married. Now you are confronted with more questions, right? And those questions are actually leading you astray. But you know the initial problem actually started from back there, right? So if you find yourself in such situations, then you're not being honest with yourself, right? How many things do we actually do? It goes back to what we've been circling about here or around. How many times do we do things that are influenced by external people and not ourselves? So if you cannot do anything that feels right within you, then I suppose then you're always gonna like find yourself like asking yourself more questions and not having answers to those questions. It's that simple.
Thanks, Brian. X-Men. Did you think we're gonna forget about you?
Well, I think like you have the books, right? I also have the book. I don't know where it is. The Alchemist, right?
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example about purpose as well, isn't it?
Mm.
I think we always searching, out there to find our purpose, and it's right within us, within our, within our hearts, within our spirits. I think you also right when you said you don't have to have. There's not one purpose you need to follow. You need to try a few things, a few, that really catches your attention. And if you'd like, you can either stick to one, or you can have multiple purposes.
Can I reinforce the question that was asked?
Yeah, you may.
Do you ever like ask yourself questions from deep within?
Well, yes, I do.
And what are some of those questions?
Like, what is my purpose? What am I meant to? Why am I here? That's the question. And that is why I'm still finishing off, and I've had an experience with again, I'll tell you all about my first experience with ayahuasca in ceremony. And that was, my purpose as well, trying to find my purpose. So, and everything else. What I got out of it was, how the medicine actually spoke to me. Where they actually showed me like, you're doing all these things to please people, right? In my life, you're doing all these things to please people. And then at some point, they also told me like, I was on some type of mountain, not on the mountain. I was actually in the air, like almost like a drone, but it's my spirit. And what happens is Mother Earth, they call her Mother Earth, actually fetched me, right? And took me away in the air. And as I looked down, that was a mountain and there were people there, people waving, right? And as the people were waving to me, I tried to go back. But Mother Earth said to me, you can't go back, So that experience actually speaks about death. So I can't go back to go and fulfill my purpose, And that's the important part, while you're alive now, you need to find your purpose. You need to have those uncomfortable questions, and really, please yourself. Look within yourself, because once you leave this earth, there's no way where you can come back and say,
True.
I fulfilled my purpose. So that's my answer to that.
Tshili,
That's
what
a
do you
very
have to
good
say
one.
about the same thing? Because you posed the question, we've entertained it. I think it's your time
I'll
to
actually,
shine.
I'll actually show you a video about the whole thing that
The entire experience.
the experience that I had, and I found the video on Instagram, and I said no, but this is the same thing that I experienced,
Uh,
you know, on
on your journey.
on my journey.
Mm.
Yeah.
Tshili.
Oh, okay. Coming to me.
Yes.
I asked myself a lot of questions. Well, in that bathroom.
When
Yeah.
you decided
When
on
I
the topic.
decided on the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the questions which I asked myself, it was very difficult because it was an easy question, but I didn't have the answer for like 2 years.
Mm.
And the question was, why am I here?
Mhm.
And I didn't know why I am here on
Mhm.
earth. So I have a notebook
Mm.
where I write a lot of things in it, a lot of poems in it. And I stumbled across a poem which I had written in 2008. I was still in high school. And one of the statements which I had written there was, if I cannot climb, it must be the fault of the ladder.
Mhm.
If I cannot see, it must be that the lamp is defective. And for me, it was okay, there's something in there, but still, why am I here? You know? And I read that every day until I knew that actually I'm here to help people. I'm here because I love having fun. I'm a bubbly person. And in that, I'm here to share my journey with so many individuals. So, yeah, if I cannot see, the lamp is defective.
That's something. That's something else. It's like, wow, that's mind blowing to me, because although like someone would be like, okay, well, you just passing the buck, you know. But then in other ways, it could be like you need to understand that you do have a purpose and you are good enough. So if there are other tools, dead tools, it's probably the dead tools that's not doing its job properly. But you are good enough to succeed. You are good
Yes.
enough to, you know, and again, when we're saying succeed, we're not talking about from a monetary perspective, you know, talking about achieving that goal or fulfilling that purpose, actually.
Yeah, just to add on that, I think in mathematics, we do the whole bottom-mass situation. And if we bottom-mass our life in it, we'll surely find it. And
how do you bottom-mass your life? Brackets first, and then what, and then what, and then what?
I wouldn't know what the bottom-mass of life would be, but if we do that,
you'll share that with us.
Yeah, bravery.
Oh,
something.
okay.
Yeah, just bottom-mass it. Yeah, according to you. Yeah.
Do you know what's crazy? Don't you find it like rather odd that people have an issue with someone that likes to literally wax lyrical about themselves? Like they like to give compliments to themselves way before people give compliments to them. And they would literally go so far as to label that person as a person that likes to blow their own horn, as though someone must do it on their behalf. Isn't that like very troubling to an extent? When you think about it, it's almost like, can you imagine a situation? And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people these days literally attract depression from absolutely nothing. You look at yourself in the mirror, right? You want to be validated by someone. You take a photo, you post it on the internet, and you expect a specific number of likes. And if you don't get those likes, then you're not beautiful enough. Who decides if you're beautiful or not, if not yourself?
So it's like you're looking at the man in the mirror.
It's okay. Let's ignore this one.
Yeah.
It's almost like you outsourcing some of the things that are supposed to be entirely upon you, right? When you wake up in the morning, right? If you don't feel good about yourself, then you shouldn't expect people to feel good on your behalf about you, or actually look at you and say, oh, wow, you look spectacular today, but then you didn't find yourself spectacular. And I remember having this conversation with someone, and I said to them, on the days where like I've gotten like dozens of compliments, I've given the compliment myself before anyone could, right? And on the days I didn't feel particularly good about myself, and nobody noticed anything good about me either. So you attract the things. So it all stems from inside, right? So you attract all the external things that are actually happening. So be it that it's discovery or it's your purpose, it all begins with you and what you attract in your life, right? If it's a toxic relationship, it's because you're toxic yourself, and you may not be aware, you may be oblivious to your toxic ways or your toxic habits, but then in actual fact, it will lead you to another toxic person. So you attract what you are, basically.
Profound, man. I think you should also consider being like a marriage counselor. On that note, just like to say thank you to Tshili, aka Charles, aka there's too many AKAs. The usual suspects. It's always great to have you guys on the show. Thank you again for the time. Peace.
Peace.
Cheers.